Be a man, they say. In the middle of an obviously failing patriarchy, stringing those words to mean act right is quite something. Here we are anyway, all 4 billion of us, trying to be men. Here we are, strong, bold, macho, taut, detached, unkempt, pressured, hurt, in search of truth and self and support. Don't get me wrong, with the privileges we enjoy as men, being a man is low-key sweet. So here, take a glass of good old truth to wash that fake sweetness off your tongue. You're welcome to the Glide. Good morning, PDR. Thank you so much for being here. First of all, let me introduce you properly, right? So, all you guys listening to this, this is my Oga, right? He is Pastor David Rotimi, and more than a pastor, he is what we call a serial entrepreneur. Like, there's so much he does. I don't think this podcast is going to cover that, but hello, PDR, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you, Manu. I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, he's a busy man, so we're really excited that he's here. Yeah, so today we'll be exploring the realities of manhood. Let's try to unpack that heavy phrase, the be a man phrase. So the first question I have is, who is a man to you? What does that mean? What's it meant to mean? What or who do you think a man should be?
So I think first of all, it's difficult to think about a man without contrasting it with a woman because they're obviously two sexes, right? And I mean, if you think about man in that sense, you probably think about a human being, But if I'm being specific to say man as in contrast to a woman, what I would say is a huge part of being a man involves, I would say, 3 things. 1, leadership. 2, responsibility. And 3, service. So I think those 3 things are the biggest things that highlight who a man is or what a man is in this context.
So leadership, responsibility, and service. Okay, so but if you highlighted them things, is that to say, in some sense, that women don't have to, lead in some sense, or or don't have to participate in that?
Oh, okay, no, not at all. So the reason why I highlighted those would be typically. The major points where a man and a woman usually differs many times is in the context of marriage, right? Outside marriage, we're all just human beings. You're a male human being and a female human being. The expectations aren't different for a male student or a female student. In class, there's no difference between a male student and a female student. Everybody's expected to pass. Only differences maybe would be like in sports, there will be male sports and female sports, and that's just because of physical differences. But only in the context of marriage, then it becomes something distinctively different because then you're now taking on a role that is different from, who we used to be before as, we're just friends, or we're just all human beings, or we're all just colleagues, that type of thing. So that's why I did that, because eventually, in the context of marriage, then we take on a role, and these factors that I mentioned are a huge part of defining what that role is. Because outside the institution of marriage, it's not that much of a big deal because everybody's supposed to be responsible, everybody's supposed to serve, everybody's supposed to lead, So
Right. Cool. Thank you so much for clearing that up. And it's great you bring marriage up because I was going to ask this as well. I don't know. I would just like you to help us differentiate, right, between a man, a husband, and a dad. So I reckon there are many guys, and or men, however they want to be referred to, some of them even boys, right, that would want
husband or dad privileges in some sense, even when they are not. I think there is, I do think there's a difference. It's not really clear cut for me, to be fair. Besides the fact that obviously a husband is married, you get, and a dad is a married man that has children. Or actually nowadays, like, or not nowadays, you don't have to be married to have children anymore. Exactly. So yeah, but just help us like differentiate, between the three, and maybe, is there a reason why the typical guy, like single guy, would want to be treated with the same level of respect and or given the same kinds of privileges?
So actually, right, I would. It's not even a men thing. It's a human thing. Let me explain to you this way. Okay. It's the same way in many contexts, right? Women who are not married to men kind of also expect wife privileges. The privileges of, if we're going out, you should pay for what we're eating.
Is that a wife privilege?
Out, you should. Yes, who are you that I should pay for you? If you're not my wife, like, am I responsible for you?
Right.
Like, if you want to think about it, like in black and white, like if I'm a boy and you're a girl and we're both classmates, and I say, and maybe when you're in university, I say, let's go out to have lunch. Typically, so let me explain to you this way. Our brains are to a very large extent wired to what we aspire to be. So a young man is aspiring to be a husband someday. A young woman is aspiring to be a wife someday, right? And somehow we already take on those roles subconsciously in a very small way. So when a man, let's say for instance, a boy and a girl, they're both 18 years old in university, and then an armed robber comes and steals the girl's bag, right? The girl will somehow expect the guy to chase the guy that stole her bag. And that's husband privileges, just another boy in school. I don't expect that from you. So the expectations aren't exactly outlined, but it's very subconscious many times. And it will be weird if she sees that happened and the guy is just looking like, oh, sorry. She will kind of be disappointed, like, fight for me or something. Exactly. So I just wanted to point that out because we as humans are both wired to expect some types of things because of the aspirations that we have for the future. So it's the same way a guy would kind of be expecting, wife privileges from a girlfriend, or girlfriend privileges from even a random talking stage.
They're
just in talking stage too. And so it's that futuristic expectation that's just kind of manifesting. So I wouldn't say it's a men thing, it's a human thing. But since we're talking about men, because we want to be, so the thing is, these kind of conversations are very difficult because we have so many frames of references. Okay? When I say frames of references, I mean, if I give an opinion today, my opinion is based on an idea, and that idea is anchored towards something, right? So in my context, if I give an opinion, it's based off of an idea that is shared by the word of God, because that's my anchor, So maybe a Marxist, for example, would give an opinion that's based off of an idea that stems from Marxism or, socialism or any of these isms that exist. Now, because my frame of reference is the word of God, the context for marriage in the Bible is man and wife. It's, the man is the leader, the protector, the provider of the home. Husbands, love your wife like Christ loved the church. Wives, submit unto your husbands as unto the Lord, those types of things. And that's my frame of reference, right? So when I'm explaining marriage in any context, that's where I'm getting my idea from. Now, obviously, to a very large extent, it may clash with the world's idea of what marriage should look like and all of this. And I want to say that's not my business, but my own frame of reference is my own frame of reference.
Right.
So now, because we want to spell it out, and the Bible is very clear, it helps us understand that marriage is a defining moment for any man and woman, because it's the beginning of an exclusive relationship. And the Bible tells us that it's a union that mirrors the union between Christ and the church. So, and we know that the union between Christ and the church is an everlasting union. So already we have an understanding that marriage between a man and a woman is supposed to last a lifetime. So, amongst other things is all the other specifics on what the marriage should look like. But if we're talking about why we expect some particular privileges as men and women, I dare say, it's because of the idea that we have for the future, and somehow it's manifesting already.
Right. So, well, this thing just brought to my mind. I reckon you remember because this play that children play. When you have like say a typical guy has a family friend, or like, his parents' friends have a girl as a child, so his family friends with one other girl, and then whenever they're together, they always play mommy and daddy kind of something. It's like when you were speaking, that thing just came to mind. It's as subconscious as that, and like it starts that early that you'll be saying it all, did you get? So it's like, when you are now painting the picture about the, fight or flight thing, I want you fight for me. It's like, what else are you meant to do except for help me beat this guy and collect back my bag? It's like, it's like, that was, wow. It is, well, and then I think the other facet now that it's, then the world is making things complex, but now the other facet is now being a dad, right? So, you're a dad. So I just like to ask, like, was there a transition? Like, did you, or have you spotted a difference, right, between who you were as, a husband, like, just having gotten married, and who you became being a dad? Is there a difference? I reckon there should be, but like, that's what I want to find out. What's that like?
So the difference is more practical than idealistic. Idealistic in the sense that from the point when I decided to be in a relationship that was going to lead to marriage, I sort of already took on the role of boyfriend, husband, and father and grandfather, I guess, right?
Okay.
Now, I took that on mentally, So, but in my mind, I wouldn't say anything changed because it has always been there. I've been preparing for it. I've been planning for it. I've been thinking about it actively. I've been working towards it. I've been reading about it. I've just been, it has been all around in my mind. So nothing changed per se in my mind. There was no root shock. There was no, oh my God, wow, is this what it's like? All those things didn't happen to me because I already envisaged all of those. So the only thing that I would say changed would be the practical nature of, expressing that idea, which is now reorganizing my priorities, distributing my time in the order of my priorities. So now my faith is my number one priority, my family is my number two priority, then my business, then my career, then all the other things. So when I'm sharing my time across all these things, now I don't just have a wife, I now have a son. So it means that the amount of time I'll spend on my family is now increased exponentially because there are now two members. So I'm now responsible for two of them. So if I've been spending maybe 5 hours in a day with my wife alone as a unit of my family, now I'm probably going to spend like 8 because there's my wife and there's my son. So I think the only thing that also, let me say, just manifested itself is just the realization that my life is an example to my son. So what that does for me is it puts a responsibility on me to ensure that I'm always mirroring the right images. And then when I'm looking at the world, I'm not just looking at the world as, oh, this is what the world is. I'm looking at the world like, I want this world to be a better place for my son when he grows up. I want to do the best that I can to ensure that happens. So I think those would be the major changes that have happened for me personally.
Wow. Okay. Only if we could all be as prepared as you were. But then again, like you said, I reckon this is something that has stemmed from, the faith, the thing on which you base your principles. And so I guess that's where it all comes from. So yeah, I think it's a call to, steady your ship on something that is solid enough to carry you, with regards to your thoughts, your worldviews and the rest. So yeah, about this 3-word phrase, I remember writing out, the brand story, for Tom George, the brand, and these 3 words, this be a man thing. It's so used, and the way I set it out is that this is a patriarchy, the world is a patriarchy. So basically like a space ruled by men, and it's like men are the dominant force. And quite simply, I don't know whether to say the world has even been a success thus far, per our human contribution. If anything, like, I don't know, we have kind of, what do you call this thing now? Ecologically, I think we have deteriorated the planet. As a people, I think morals are, just, so if you're going to evaluate the world, say, comparing what used to be and what is now, and having that it's a world ruled by men, and quite simply, like, it seems like we are failing at quite a number of things. Okay, we'll be advancing in other respects, but, in quite a number of things, I think we have been failing. So, and then people use this phrase, be a man. Be a man, and then they want you to, they say that to say guys to maybe, hey, I don't know, maybe man chin up, or to man up, exactly, man up. That's the thing. Like, I don't think that, like you said, manhood has been appropriately even defined. Like, cause then again, when you say man up, what does that mean? Does that mean I can't cry? Does that mean, I can't share as much? Like, what does that even mean? So, it's just, this so now like leads me to, okay, go on. Sorry.
Okay, so I was going to say, I mean, it depends on who, for example. If my dad, who is a great example for me, tells me to man up, right? What I'm hearing from him is, be responsible. Now, let me give you context. I've seen my dad cry. So when my dad says man up, there's nowhere in my mind that I think he's trying to say men don't cry or don't cry. So it's still contextual. So for example, if I use the word man up, what I'm saying is be responsible, be tough, resist, be strong enough, be firm, And that's not to say woman up means the opposite.
Right.
It's like the example that I give, because there are already physical differences between us, So those physical differences will extrapolate into many other types of into different manifestations of who we are as people or as humans. Now, you said something about the world deteriorating, the world being patriarchy, and then being in the home of affairs, and the world is getting And two things. One, I don't think we can specifically say that it's because of the patriarchy, right?
Okay.
What I believe the answer is because of the human condition, right? So I can say this for a fact: if the world was a matriarchy, it wouldn't be any better. So it's not a question of whether the world is a patriarchy or a matriarchy. It's a function of human beings are the ones in charge. So we have a frail human condition, and that's why salvation is just super important, because the world is doomed to destruction. Now, the Bible helps us understand that. So there's no question about the world getting any better. The only solution for the world right now is saving grace in Christ Jesus. So any solution that comes from man is nothing but foolishness. So think about every possible solution that has come. Industrial revolution, the age we're in right now, feminism, socialism,
Facebook,
capitalism, all the isms that exist in the world, right? Now, every one of these isms have always been a human approach to solving a human problem, right? Now, what that means is that because we're humans, there is a realm to which we cannot think beyond our human capacity. So it's like when you think about ants, for example, ants are having a problem. We as humans, because we understand them even better than they understand themselves, because we studied them for much longer. An average ant can only live for, I don't know how long an ant can live for, but because we are humans, we studied their existence for such a long time. We have better solutions for them because we've seen them, everything about them. I mean, a lot about them. So we are in a better place to give them a solution to their problems than they themselves. And human beings are making the same mistake. We're trying to solve our problems by our limited knowledge. And we think we know because we have history recorded, we have all these things recorded. And the problem with history recorded is because humans recorded the history is always a product of whoever is telling the history. So if a black person is telling the history of the world, he would say, yes, it's always biased. And the bias is not wicked. The bias is just it's a given. You can't do it.
It's just human.
Many times you don't have any other context. Yes, it's just human. So you're not trying to be wicked. It's like when people are complaining about white people, I mean American people, and making all their movies white. I'm like, most of them are white. So why don't you expect their movies to be white? Nobody comes to Nigeria to complain that our movies are black. We're mostly black, so I mean it goes without saying. So the point I'm just trying to make is that it's a human problem. And it's not because, there are men in charge or women in charge. Men in charge. I mean, there are countries where we've seen women at the highest possible offices. And it's not like those countries have been dramatically transformed. They're just like, oh my God, it should have been women all along. So it's just a human problem. And it won't make any difference if it was a man, or if it was a patriarchy or a matriarchy.
Wow. That ant analogy is a thing. I could just hear you say, you need someone outside the system, right, that has a full view of it to kind of help out, right? It helps to see everything.
And that's what God is like.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really beautiful. Okay. This is the last question, as we close. I don't know. I think I know the answer to this question, but I really want to know what you'd say. I would like to hear what you'd say about this. Has society given men unrealistic standards to meet? So, you also do podcasting, right? So I reckon you know Joe Rogan or a Jordan Peterson, or there's just like an entire, like, there are breeds of men, right? In this space of men empowerment, if I can call it that, preaching different kinds of manhood, right? So you think hyper successful people that think that, a man should be physically strong, this alpha male thing. So is there like, what do you think about that? Like the unrealistic standards that men have to meet? Like, are there any unrealistic standards? And you're like, what do you think they are?
So, the unrealistic standards. So the way that I think about the world, right? For example, when we say stuff like the society has set a standard for men, or women, those types of things, I usually stop to think, and I'm like, who is society? It's very easy to say, but who exactly is society? Like, who? If I ask anyone who is society and when did they place this demand, or when did they make this expectation of
when they arrange it?
It's a difficult question to answer, But the thing is, what we will call society is what we see as prevalent, So, and what we see as prevalent many times is a function of some people actually controlling what we see. So, like, imagine that we watch movies and all the romantic movies that we see the men always going above and beyond to please the woman, all of those things. We will end up with the conclusion that society has conditioned men to always go above and beyond. Meanwhile, what it is just the fact that movies have made us read. Right. Apart from movies, you see many other things in real life, and you see many other examples of those types of things. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that many times when we say society has done something, what we're doing is we are forgetting that we who make those kinds of statements are as much society as whoever we are saying put those expectations on men or women.
Wow.
Do you understand?
Right.
So
yes.
If Yeah, because we who are asking those questions are a part of society. And we have the chance and the opportunity to redefine, in quotes, what society should expect. So that's one frame of reference. Now, the other frame of reference is eventually, as human beings, because I believe that many of people, like at least Jordan Peterson, that I know, for example, a lot of what he does is self-leadership. Self-leadership meaning society's expectation of you should not determine what your outcomes should be. You need a stronger frame of reference. You need a stronger anchor for why you do the things that you do. So are we saying that if society expects men to cry every day, are we going to feel pressured? I certainly won't feel pressured because I am not subject to society's expectation of me. I'm subject to God's expectation of me. So for me, one of the first things that I would say is I think it's a call for us to rid ourselves of every form of societal expectation. One, because it's unreal. Number two, because it's very changeable. It's the same way right now with the move of feminism and all of these things. All of a sudden, it's such a great thing to be a woman that everybody is calling toxic, calling masculinity toxic, and then
toxic, right?
Oh my God, we are the queen. We are on top of the world. Many job applications they'll say women are highly encouraged to apply. Some job applications will actually say we're hiring only women, And to think that 50 years ago that wasn't the case. So even the society we're talking about can change, and it's because of the influence of some people. So when we realize that we are as influential in redefining what, in quotes, society is or society expects, we understand that, and then it makes us realize that we can make our decisions outside the expectation of society, because society is consistently changing to the tune of the greatest influence. And the greatest influence many times is money. Money will control the media, money will control politics, money will control, so, but everybody has to get to the point where they say, you know what, I'm going to make my decisions not based on the ideology of society. Many of the people who change the status quo of what we see in the world today were people who didn't move along with the expectation of society. Like when you hear situations of maybe, I'm thinking, outliers in different contexts, like women who stood out to do something extraordinary that hadn't been done by a woman before. Many women, like those types of women, yes, many of those types of women, or many of those types, if it was a black and white thing, or if it was a minority culture, that type of thing, many of those people didn't anchor their life on societal expectation. They anchored their life on something else. So we need to, I think we need to transition from societal expectation to something more solid that cannot be moved. And that's why for the rest of my life, the gospel will be the most important thing to me, because it's such a sure foundation that you are never in doubt as to what your worth is, what God's expectation of you is, and what you expect from God, or what you hope to see at the end of your life. So now to try and answer your question again, because I think I went a little off the question you asked. Is society, I said that so that it will be easier for me to answer the question. Is society's expectation of men unrealistic? Because of the preamble that I gave, I feel like, and I'm answering this on a personal note, I wouldn't say it's realistic or it's unrealistic. I would say that our expectations should not be from society. Our expectations should be from our evaluation of ourselves and our frame of reference. And I really hope that for everyone who is listening, the frame of reference is something as solid as the word of God. So, but if I want to address it as a commentator who is someone just watching and seeing what the world is looking like right now based off all the information that I've seen, I would say to a very large extent, yes. And the reason I would say that is because many times when you flip the switch, it's not applicable. Kind of like the example that I gave, or when I say flip the switch, I mean flip sides. So typically, like for example, many young women want to marry rich men, and most times rich men are typically older because it takes longer for you to become rich. But then the same older women will complain that all the men are looking for younger women. Meanwhile, when they were younger, they were looking for older men. Now, old men who are accomplished are looking for younger women. And, they're complaining that this doesn't make sense, So there are many case scenarios where you realize that it's just not working if we flip sides and apply the exact same measure. So to a very large extent, I think it is.
Wow. Man, this was so good. Thank you so much, PDR. Thank you for, obliging us. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we can have you again, right? All right.
Yes, I'll be happy to come back anytime.
Guy, this just can't go on forever. If your mind wanders a bit like mine, you must have noticed the many segues. Wow. Well, one has stuck. Far from fickle facts, I believe these are truths. First, success is relative. Like beauty, it's first in the eyes of the beholder. I mean, what does she look like to you? Secondly,